Hey sewing friends, welcome or welcome back. I'm really excited today to finally share my spring sewing menu. So I've got 8 projects here of varying levels of involvement that I am going to be looking at for the next couple of months. It's not that I feel like I have to complete all 8 of these before summer, but it is kind of the window of time that I'm setting my focus on these guys rather than getting caught in the analysis paralysis of it all with so many gorgeous patterns and fabrics out there. It really helps just kind of narrow my gaze a little bit. So by the time the end of June comes around, I'm not sure if these will all get made up or not, or if perhaps I will have pivoted, but I do really want to keep my focus a bit narrow here, at least to have these to select from. So I'm really excited to finally share them with you and then get on to the best part, which is the making. So sewing for the season is something that I feel is really grounding for me. It makes me feel really connected to nature. It makes me really feel like I am part of the world. And that is something that is really easy. It comes very naturally for me in summer, in fall, in winter when I'm making all the cozy things, trying to stay cozy myself, or in the fall wearing these kind of jewel and earthy tones as the leaves are changing. All of that fits really well for me. And then I feel like in the past when I've tried to do that in the spring, something tends to kind of go awry. I think a lot of our cultural traditional markers that we associate with spring don't jive with me. So really delicate florals, pastel colors, all of that ends up looking a little bit like I will love it on other folks. I will love it in a store. I'll love it hanging up. And then it goes on my body and it just doesn't feel quite right. So I wanted to really avoid that trap that I often find myself in during the spring. And so rather than going for that kind of Easter eggedness, I really wanted to lean into colors that were really vibrant, that still symbolized growth and clarity. So what I landed on initially started actually with these 2 prints of this really dark cobalt blue, an earthy brown, and then y'all know my favorite color is this really bright kind of acid pear green. So these 2 prints were kind of what started the idea for this color palette, and then they didn't actually make it into my final plans. But yeah, those are, we'll just kind of squish those back over there. Yeah, so that's kind of the direction I was going of bright sky, white clouds, green grass. So that is what I have landed on with these fabrics. Now, all of these are from my stash with one exception here. So this is my big splurge, which I'll tell you about in a minute. But yeah, so that's kind of the direction that I'm going. So very fresh and vibrant, but not necessarily too sweet and feminine. So I'm a big fan of Seamwork's Design Your Wardrobe course. I have done it a couple times in the past. I didn't for this selection, but I did take with me a lot of the tenets, including the color palette, but also designing, or my ideation phase, putting things into outfits and looks rather than just individual pieces. Now, most of these are going to go with lots of other things in my wardrobe. They will even mix and match among themselves pretty well, but I have found last season that it was really centering to have a full picture to look forward to and to stay focused with. So that's what I've done here. I've put together 4 outfits and I've included a couple of pieces that are, yeah, finished garments, but maybe need a little bit of tweaking to them, as well as some virgin fabrics that I'm really excited to cut into. So if you watched my video a couple weeks ago about spring trends that I am loving, one of the ones that has really resonated with me is garden girly, and this idea of having very flowy, billowy, often floral, very feminine tops with like workwear, overalls, kind of more practical garments on the bottom. And I had said then that I will be living vicariously through this trend because we have collectively decided that we are just like letting our garden, we're just not touching it this season. We have tons of other priorities right now, and we just kind of need to let that go for this year. So like I said, I'm going to be leaning into it in other ways. So the outfit that I have is a nice, pretty billowy puff sleeve blouse and a pair of overalls that I've been wanting to make for ages. So for the blouse, I picked up my first fabric purchase of this year, and it is one that I feel like has been calling out to me since I saw it back in like maybe September or October. This is the Liberty Print Prospect Stripe, and I really have not seen it very many places, but I did finally snatch it up from Ansha. Her shop has lots of gorgeous fabrics. They're all so expensive. So this was my big splurge, and I just love the really, really bright colors in here. But because it is such a like small scale and such a dynamic print, it doesn't read as like overly bold, even though it's like really bright cobalt blue, really bright Kelly green with like yellow and pink in there. So it reminds me of like European folk art, like that kind of color palette, that kind of design. And I was just really, really drawn to it. Been thinking about it for months, so I finally took the plunge and got 2 meters of this. And what I want to do with it is make a blouse very similar to the Madswick Beth. So I've been looking at this pattern quite a bit, and I really, really love that little ruffle collar. I really like the ruffle down the button placket, and then those big puff sleeves are super, super cute. Now, I am I'm not inclined to just try out a new pattern with this very expensive Liberty fabric. So instead what I want to do is adapt the details that I like so much about the Beth and just kind of tack it on the Forget Me Not Helmi blouse, which is my favorite blouse pattern. I've made it a couple times. I know it fits me super, super well. I know that in a Liberty Tana lawn, it just holds its shape really, really nicely. My other one was absolutely like a pleasure to sew, and I wear it all the time. So that's what I'm gonna do with this one. And I'm only debating if I'm going to make it long sleeve or short sleeve. So the jury is out on that one, but it'll be a Beth inspired Helmi blouse. I'm really excited to finally actually make a pair of overalls. I've been wanting a pair of overalls / dungarees in my wardrobe for so long. I had twirled the Clowncore Jennies back before they did their size expansion on that pattern, and yeah, it wasn't a great fit for me. I would have had to do a lot of tweaking to make it work, but they have re-released it, and even more exciting, Cashmerette has also released a overalls pattern, and I think I'm going to do a little like merry moo of the two. I really love that Cashmerette very much focused in on the bib. There's actually like a dart in it, so it doesn't just get like all weird and floppy in there. There's an appropriate amount of length, because I have been betrayed by that before with overalls patterns, and yeah, having a significant bust. So I think putting them together, I will get the like fitted wide cropped leg retro situation of my dreams from the Clowncore Jenny, but then a nice, really well fitted bib on the top from the Cashmerette Rhinecliff. So the second look is very much leaning into the like Poetcore kind of literary spring academia. So it's almost like cottagecore meets academia. And that really describes like a lot of my wardrobe. But yeah, mostly again, leaning like kind of in the fall winter. So I'm very excited about bringing those kind of romantic academic vibes into my spring summer wear as well. So for that, I was looking at a couple of the things that I already have, and a piece that I think works really well for this, it's got a nice like ruffle collar, is this Madhu top that I made a couple years ago in a like very, very white, very bright white cotton gauze. And I love the fit. I love the ruffle. I love that it has like romantic details, but it doesn't feel too girly or too feminine, like actually on me. So I really, really love this top, except that it is so, so white. So what I want to do with this is find a way to just kind of take the edge off. So I'm thinking about doing like a tea dip or an avocado dye, something that will just give it like, it'll just help it calm down a little bit, but I'll still kind of keep that cream ivory vibe of like the classic white top, but just not like so white that it's washing me out. So that's my plan for this one. And then to go with it on the bottom, I was very, very much into the like pleated mini skirts that go with this vibe. And I just made one. I made the Friday Pattern Company Bernadette skirt, but I made it in a, classic wool, which is great. But yeah, I kind of want like a spring summer version. And I think that this Atelier Brunette little tiles viscose linen is going to be perfect. I had this fabric on my fall winter plans and just didn't get around to making it. I was initially thinking of like a midi skirt, but after having made the Bernadette, I am kind of obsessed and I want to make this into another version that will kind of lead more into spring and summer. Yeah, basically like as soon as possible. The next couple of pieces are super practical and things that I know I will wear a lot, but somehow I've just been like sitting around my sewing room and not getting made up. So I've decided that now is the time to change that. And the first thing is this t-shirt that I picked up last year when I was in Portland. Bolt is my favorite fabric shop, and well, maybe not. There's really good fabric shops in Portland and I love them all, but Bolt had a t-shirt and I bought their t-shirt, but this is their old design and they only had a couple of sizes. So this size is much too big for me and I would like to resize this t-shirt. And yeah, the colors go exactly with this kind of color palette I have in mind. And I love a graphic tee during like spring, summer, fall, basically. And I really love it with like a midi skirt. I find I really, really love the coverage that midi skirts provide, especially like they're breezy enough to wear in the summertime, but like in spring and fall, when it's like a little bit chilly out, they offer some more coverage, which I think is so nice, so practical. Sometimes they can read a little bit trad wife on me. And so pairing them with a nice graphic t-shirt really helps to like negate that. So that is kind of my plan, to resize this one and then turn this Cloud 9, I think the print was called Wild Horses. It's from a couple years ago. This one I absolutely fell in love with. It was initially going to be a dress, but I think it's a little bit cool and a little bit stark for my coloring. So I was thinking like maybe not actually right up against my face. So I have plenty of the fabric. So I'm gonna make a really nice full midi skirt and I'm gonna use the Mave by True Bias. That's one that I just like have in my stash. Gonna make a few little tweaks to it. If you caught any of my recent videos about like how finicky I am about skirts, I know I'm a bit ridiculous, but when it all comes together and it's exactly when the pockets are like perfectly anchored, when the belt loops are all nicely enclosed, like it is just so satisfying. So I'm gonna tweak it a little bit to my specifications, but this is going to be a nice flowy, full midi skirt. So back in January, I talked about a chambray button-down shirt as one of my goals for 2026. It's on my Make 9, it's official. And I talked a lot about the inspiration being Chessie from the Parent Trap with her very iconic, like early 2000s olive green cargo pants and then the Levi's light wash chambray shirt over the top. And this is kind of my take on that, but like that meets Clowncore just a little bit. So I'm really excited. The shirt is going to be a pretty basic shirt, and this is kind of like a stand-in fabric. It is a chambray. It is 100% cotton, but it has this kind of like seersucker bobbled texture that I'm doubtful if that will work when you want all of those like you want to really press those nice crisp corners. And I think it would be a bit weird if like they get all pressed out in like the collar and the cuffs, but then like at the back yoke, there's still a bunch. So I'm not really sure about that. I am sure on the pattern though. So I want to use a little mashup of the Cashmerette Vernon and the Cashmerette Wind Veil. So they're like sister patterns. What I like more about the Wind Veil is that the back piece has fisheye darts rather than a pleated, like a yoke pleat at the back. So it's a little bit more fitted, and I like the rest of the look of the Vernon better, so I'm just gonna kind of swap those pieces together. I made this shirt dress of the Wind Veil a year ago, and it's one of my favorite pieces, so I'm pretty confident in the fit. I do just need to pick up a plain chambray for that. And then for the bottoms, rather than doing a utility cargo pant, I really fell in love with the ready to sew Harper bloomers that I've been seeing around lots of places. They are so cute, and I think they'll be really perfect for this. Yeah, again, it's gonna like kind of combine the idea of the inspiration. They're still going to be really like soft and easy to wear, but then they have like that little extra cheeky little detail of the pleats at the bottom and then that kind of ruffle. I have a Tencel Twill here that I got from Minerva a couple years ago now, and I dyed it myself because it was a little bit, I don't know, it was a strange color. I thought I was getting mustard. I wanted it to be mustard, and I could tell in the picture that it was like not really that, but I was like, oh, it's probably just the picture. No, the picture was accurate. It was just a really weird color. It was like a really light, like caramel sauce color. It was called Toffee, I think, and I didn't like it. I did 2 rounds of olive dye over it, and now I think it's really pretty. And I think it'll be really great for, this like bloomer idea, which will also contribute to another item on my Make 9, which is to make a clown costume for Halloween. So on their own, like with a t-shirt and like a little chambray shirt over it, I think that it will be just like very casual everyday wear. But like if I put it with a ruffle collar and like a vest and something silly, I definitely think they could read as clowncore. So those are my soft plans. I think of this as my menu for spring sewing. I'm not promising to make every single item on here. I think I've limited enough that it could be achievable, but that does not mean that I have to do it. And it doesn't mean that I won't necessarily like go off and do something different. Now, I do want to set the parameters for myself that aside from the other chambray, I don't really want to be bringing in more fabric, mostly because like I have no regrets on this Liberty at all, but we are going to be clearing out this room to do some work up here. So yeah, I want to not bring in more items, but try to work with what I have. So no guarantees, like something might spark my fancy still, but I mostly want to stay a bit focused, stick within the menu, and I'm getting really excited. It did take me a long time to kind of edit and pare down because I was feeling just inspired by everything, which is great. That's a really fun feeling, but often does not translate to actual doing. And so now I feel like I can kind of cut myself off. I can kind of close that chapter of the like ideation, planning, phase and then really just kind of get narrowed down into the actual sewing. So of course, I'd love to hear from you what you are up to, whether you have planned a laundry list of sewing for the season, or if you're just taking things like as the inspiration comes. I love to hear it from you, chat with you all about like any lessons you've learned from past seasons that you are bringing into your sewing now. What's on your sewing table? What are you cutting out? What are you inspired by? You can hit me up in the comments below or on the community tab here on YouTube, or you can reach out to me on Instagram. I'm over there too. Not as much anymore, but still lurking a little bit. So I hope you have a wonderful week full of creative breakthroughs and lots of inspiration and energy for, yeah, all things creative, whether it's sewing or other things out in the world. So until next time, guys, happy making. Bye.